This week on the Austin Healey channel, we wait patiently for a whole new frame, we blast a bunch of little stuff, and we talk about something shocking. I've been power washing to get the heavy grime off of the suspension. I've done the differential and the front suspension. Found this, it's rather interesting. The front shocks were originally copper colored. They've been painted over in black like most of the inner body has been. I was reading in the Gary Anderson book that they should be black. So, you know, I went from there to checking some other stuff and found that the copper color could signify that they have been replaced with a stronger competition style shock absorber, and that the copper color denotes that. Kind of interesting. I'm not sure if I can find a color to match that, but maybe we'll paint them up copper color. Here's some of the sandblasting I've done. It's not exciting work, but you know, it's important too. Also, you know, while I was reading about the Armstrong shocks, I came across in the Gary Anderson book that the springs were upgraded by Austin Healey in February '54 from 7 leaf to 8 leaf, and that matches up here because these are 8 leaves. They're also interesting because they have a taper to this spacing plate here, so I have to make sure I get that back in the right direction. First I have to remember what that is. I have all these other Armstrong shocks that came with the car, but you know, none of those are copper colored. I wonder if they could be, you know, one set is the original ones and they were replaced with this upgraded set. It's impossible to tell, it's purely speculation. There, I finally got them both out. The first one came out, well, it took me about 2.5 hours. The second one came out in about 5 minutes. That's how it goes sometime. While this is on the bench, I thought I'd pull it apart and have a look to see what the condition of the brakes are. Besides being rusty, they're not too bad. They are the original Girling cylinders, and I thought, wow, the rubbers look really good, but wait a minute. I opened it up down here. There's all this weird stuff in it. I'm not quite sure what this gunk is. I'm probably gonna have to pull it apart, and if I'm gonna pull it apart, I might as well put new stuff on it. So some strange things are happening. I power washed this the other day. Now it appears to be leaking in a funny spot. Right in here, there appears to be a hole. And this looks like it's been welded up before. So we are going to clean it up and try and put a little dot of weld right there to seal things up again. How very strange. This shock has no shock left to it. It's just really easy to move. It's also incredibly dry inside. Like all the fluids come out, all the shock oil. So what we're gonna do is add oil and see if the shock's any good. Oh wow, that's such a difference. Feels like a shock again. I know, shocking. So I don't know who designed this filler hole, but man, they could have done me a favor and made it bigger. That's quite incredible though. I think this is a usable shock. I'm gonna clean it up and let the oil, to see if the oil continues to leak, but that's nice and stiff. So I'm gonna prep this whole thing for this whole front wishbone thing for sandblasting and cleaning up. So I'm gonna take the brakes off. I just wanted to do a quick photo of how it goes together and how it goes back together so I don't forget. I'll still need to rebuild these, but for the time being, we're just going to clean it up. A quick note, there's these little, I don't know, bumpers on these pegs. On one side it's rubber, on this side it's felt. From what I understand, the felt is the original one, which is kind of scary. I can't imagine this is still running on the original brakes, but who knows? Maybe that just wasn't replaced. Anyway, it's a very, very simple braking system. Whew, well, that took a long time. Got all the brakes out, so now I can start sandblasting and cleaning this up. It was good to get the brakes apart and see what condition they're in, whether they're rebuildable, have to replace them, whatever. It's been all apart. I kind of know what's going on and what I need. There's another one of the calipers. That's not the right word. There's some nasty corrosion or something going on in every one of these. It has the same nasty stuff. I'm just quickly kind of cleaning it out, checking to see if the cylinder's frozen or not. So far I've gotten them all to move and taken the piston out, but I cleaned them up just a little bit to kind of see the condition, see if they're worth repairing or if I have to buy new ones. As we're waiting for the new frame to arrive, I'm thinking through the process of how it's going to happen to remove the front and the back inner body shells and put them on the new one, on the new frame. One way to do that would be to add a whole bunch of cross bracing in through here to hold them together rigidly as it's all transferred from one to the other. However, I don't think that's going to work very well. I think it's going to be easier to do it in two pieces. I've seen a YouTube video recently of a guy who did this, and the big thing that he needed to do was to create a template of where the door goes, because if that gets back together correctly, then most everything else is lined up correctly. So what we're going to do now is to build that template. So what we're going to do now is use a method that cabinet makers use when they're putting something in that's not perfect. They need to create a template for like a countertop where the walls aren't straight and stuff. Basically, you have all these strips, and you hold them in place, and then you hot glue them together, and you create a framework where everything is lined up. I'm going to do a slight modification on that. We're going to overlap down here and also on the edges, and then we're going to draw exactly where this edge is. So we'll have a reference point here, we'll have a reference point on the sides, and I'll also mark the top and all the holes for where the I have one of these shocks sandblasted. Wow, what a difference. I still haven't found the right color paint, but that'll come. After sandblasting, I was able to see some of the markings on here. Up at the top it says Armstrong, blah blah blah, Beverly, England. Then registered design number 8, the patent number. Over here there's a U, and up on the top there's a 6, I believe. I think that's all. Standard markings here. Anyway, it's interesting. I haven't had much time to look up more information on them, but they are holding, you know, I put the oil in yesterday and they seem to be holding up pretty good. So the plan is to use them. Thought while we were playing with shocks, we should play with the back ones too. These two came off the car. They still have quite a bit of shockiness to them, where these two came inside the car, and there's a little bit of resistance, but you know, they're mostly floppy. So we're going to see if we can put some oil in them and see if they're any good. One of these, I think it was this one, that came off the car, was pretty oily, so I think it was leaking. So I'm going to try and test the ones that might not be leaking. I don't know. We'll check them out. That is a very messy process. However, the results are amazing. You put oil in there, all of a sudden, it goes from this, woo, 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 to this. So these seem to be in really good shape. I'll probably sandblast it and clean it up some more. Well, I'm sure I will. At least the arm needs painted. I need to figure out if the body, it gets painted as well. I'm not sure about that. I've heard some are not painted and some are painted black. Anyway, it's one of those weird details. So now I'm going to fill up this other one and see what condition it's in. I don't know how you would fill these up on the car while they're on the car. It's enough of a pain on the bench. So it'd be great to have like a ketchup bottle full of this shock oil, but I don't have one. I brought this funnel, but it's too big, and when you're putting the oil in, if it seals up the plug and the air can't get out, then it just kind of dumps all over the place. So I've been putting my finger over it like that, putting some oil in there, and then pulling my finger away till it starts dripping, and then we get a nice little line of oil that slowly goes right down the center of the plug into the hole. Most of the time it goes in there, and when it starts backing up, I just close my finger over the funnel, and I can put this right back onto the container without making too much of a mess. It's making noise in there. My understanding, these are made to drip, actually, that it's a way to lubricate the arm or something. At least that's what I heard from, I think it was John Twist over at University Motors, that it's a feature, not a bug. That is a messy process. Again, I cannot imagine doing this while it's on the car. and they're such a pain to get off the car, so I guess where there's a will, there's a way. So if you're doing this on the car, good luck. I'm doing it while it's off, so I don't have to. And these should be good for quite a while. And in case you're wondering what I'm using Dynolite shock oil. I think this came from Victoria British and smuggled over here in the boot of the Sprite. Since we're working this week on the suspension, I thought it'd be a good time to talk about some of the names of things in this week's installment of Say What? So when a spring gets compressed, it releases and it goes back and forth. It oscillates back and forth until it finds the middle ground again. And that can take some time. If that's in the car, that's going to be very annoying while you're driving. You're just going to bounce all over the road every time you hit a little bump. So the clever engineers came up with this. Now, in America, we would call them shock absorbers, because it absorbs the shock that the spring gets. The spring gets compressed and tries to release and go back and forth, and this makes it difficult for the spring to do that. So you get that initial squeeze, but then it slowly lets it go back into place. I had to take these out and power wash them before I sandblast them because they were covered in grease and oil and dirt. And that got them damp. Well, it got them damper. See, that's the British word, damper, because it dampens the oscillation of the spring. So whether it's wet or dry, damper or shock absorber, it's all the same thing. And its purpose is to keep the car on the road. So I've let these sit overnight in my favorite yogurt containers. This one is dry inside. This one, however, seems to be having a bit of a problem. So it's leaking. Yeah, what can you do? So I'll check out one of the other ones and try to find, 2 out of 4 that are sealed, and we'll go back on the car. The one came off the car, at least I think it is. I think this might be why it was leaking. All the threads are stripped out of the filler nut, filler bolt. So that's not going back. One more shot. Give it a try. Oh, it's new sand day. I love these days. We live in a crazy, crazy world. It was cheaper for me to buy this stuff online and have it shipped from Italy than buy it locally. It's crazy. This was like 2/3 of the price. So, it's absolutely nuts. But here it is. Don't want to think about the carbon footprint of it, but new sand. I don't know if you can see this very well, but to compare, this is what I've been using this week, and this is the new stuff. This old stuff used to look like this. It just gets beat up over time, and it stops cutting as well. So it takes more air. Anyway, new stuff. Glad to have it. It's been a very strange week. It doesn't feel like I've made much progress, but the pile of parts that have been prepped and painted are piling up behind me. So I know I have made progress. It's not quite what I wanted to be doing. My original plan was to be working on the inner body, but I can't really do a whole lot until the frame comes. I almost stopped to buy paint for these this morning. Oh, I'm glad I didn't. Best laid plans of mice and men. Anyway, these are the copper colored Armstrong shocks, and as you can see here, there's oil spreading. So it's leaking out of this seal. Of course, after I sandblasted it, Ah, bugger. Well, at least I can use that bad joke again. I've made them damper. Haha. Look at this. I think this one's leaking. That would be my guess, because it's got just, the power washer wouldn't touch it. Just lots and lots of goo on it. These two might be in good shape though. Actually, all three of them still have a good feeling to them. This one seems weaker than this one. That one feels good. This one feels like it's passing some air, so we're going to need to add some oil to it to see how it is. Back to the drawing board. I've got two of them that I think will hold oil. They've been pressure washed, they're cleaned up, they're a matching pair. I have them on a paper towel. We're gonna leave them for the weekend. We'll come back and see if there's any oil on the towel. That'll tell us if it's holding oil or not. I know I can send them out to be rebuilt. I'd rather not do that if I have a set that works. I am going to keep the copper ones. Maybe someday I'll figure out how to rebuild them myself and use those for another project. But for now, if I can get two that work, then I'm good.
If you want to come along on the ride as we complete this project, click the subscribe button. If you want YouTube to tell you every time there's a new video, click the alarm bell. Thanks for watching, and your support is very much appreciated.